is a day like no other. This day, Good Friday, which is a solemn day each year. In many ways, it's extra solemn but extra different this year. As Father Michael mentioned, this is the strangest celebration of Good Friday ever experienced. And it is. In these days that we've experienced throughout the world, there's been a great silence. But especially today, within the church, but also in the world, in the streets, there is even a greater slowing down, a greater recognition for whatever reason, to whatever extent, for different people, a recognition that this day is different. And it's good that we do remember this day in such a way. Especially this time we're going through in the world for many different reasons. It's really shaking us up. And in some ways, there's something good about that. There's something problematic about the familiarity we might feel when it comes to approaching God and approaching these days. It can become like a routine. We just do it and we go through the paces. But we pray that one of the benefits of this time and the struggle that we are going through in this world, we recognise that this day is special and this time is different. And we don't just fall into doing things just out of routine. For those who are followers of Jesus, we want to believe that we are close to Him, that we come close to Him, that we are faithful followers, faithful servants of Him. And even if we do that, and we follow the rules, and we do all the right things, there can be the danger of that familiarity. Pope Benedict, many years ago, spoke of this on a Good Friday in relation to what can be a lack of reverence for this extraordinary event. I'll read some words of his. He said, "No one is as close to his master as the servant, who has access to the most private dimension of his life. In this sense, serving means closeness. It requires familiarity. This familiarity also brings a danger, that our constant contact with the sacred might make it become routine for us. Thus, reverential fear is extinguished. Under the influence of all our habits, we no longer perceive the great, new, surprising fact that He Himself is present, that He speaks to us, He gives Himself to us. We must fight without rest against this habituation to the extraordinary reality, against the indifference of the heart, recognizing always anew our insufficiency and the grace that is present in the fact that He delivers Himself into our hands in this way. Serving means closeness, but above all it means obedience. The servant is under orders. Not my will, but yours be done." I mentioned last evening that at the heart of all the events that we remember in these days is that giving, that self-giving of Christ, and the example that He sets for us. Pope Benedict here speaks about obedience, that Jesus was obedient to the Father, giving himself over for us. And He calls us to an obedience. And especially in these days when things are different, when many things are taken from us, when we are led in a different direction, we are called to perhaps a greater obedience. And in another place, Pope Benedict says, We proclaim the word of Christ correctly only in the communion of his body. Our obedience is believing together with the church, thinking and speaking together with the church, serving together with it. This always involves what Jesus predicted to Peter. Someone else will lead you where you do not want to go. This being led where we do not want to go is an essential dimension of our service. And it is precisely this that makes us free. By being led in this way, which can be contrary to our own ideas and plans, we experience something new, the riches of the love of God. So easily when things are different, when we are led a different way, we struggle and we desire to go our own way, to some place that's familiar, some place that's easy. But when we are led, and especially in this time when there's so much uncertainty, so much anxiety around, what are we called to do as Christians? We are called to trust in God, to trust where he is leading, to trust that he is in control, that all will be well. And it's in this that we experience God's love for us. When things are difficult, when things are dark, we recognize that he enters into our life and he is with us. He reassures us. This cross is the sign of our faith. And the irony is, so often we want to run from it. We recognize that we are saved through the cross, what Jesus does. And we desire in many ways to unite ourselves with him in his loving action. But so easily we run away. We want to preserve ourselves. And I think this time in the world has highlighted that. As Pope Francis has been saying, this is a time that we can choose. We are led in a certain direction, perhaps somewhere we didn't want to go. It's up to us now to choose what we want, who we trust, who we truly follow. St. John Paul the Great, remember in the last days of his life, his extraordinary act of witness of uniting himself to Christ and the sufferings of Christ. He says about this idea of recognizing that through the cross we are saved. He says, through his self-emptying on Golgotha, in the disgrace of the cross and the crucifixion, at least in the way of understanding these events, in the human way of understanding these events, Christ receives the highest exaltation. In God's eyes, the cross is the greatest triumph. The way of human judgment is very different from God's. God's judgment far surpasses ours. What seems to us to be failure is in God's eyes the victory of sacrificial love. It is precisely this cross of human disgrace that bears within itself the source of the exaltation of Christ in God. In a moment, we're going to take this time to reflect on Jesus upon the cross and the extraordinary event of this day. May we recognize that what Jesus does on the cross in giving his life for us, of giving his whole self for us, is the way that we are saved. And may we not just look at it from afar and see the wonderful event that it is, the wonderful, extraordinary action that it is, but may it change our hearts, especially in this time in the world, where we are able to see things differently. We are able to see things from a different perspective. Perhaps when the world is panicking, perhaps when the world is full of anxiety and fear, we have our minds, our hearts on something more. This is the Christian way, to recognize our lives are not our own. Our end is not this world. We have something greater to hope in. And when we reflect on the cross, when we reflect on Jesus' giving of himself for us, the ultimate sacrifice, we also have in our minds the Easter resurrection. So when we do go through the darkness of our own lives, or the difficulties that we do struggle with, we recognise the end of the story. Yes, Jesus is with us in all of our suffering, and this life brings with it its difficulties, its struggles. But we are Easter people. We look at the cross, we reflect on it, we recognise the extraordinary power of Jesus on the cross. But we recognise he has conquered death, and we look forward to the resurrection, the hope that Jesus gives us, the hope that we all have.